Hello, this is Bob Villarreal, and thank you for joining me for this is the tour for Part U, and we're hovering over Copiapu. We've been here several times before, so I know you're familiar with it. Now, I just wanted to remind you that on these tours, I don't reveal much of what's going on in a chapter or a part. Um, the sole purpose here is just to show you not only with Google Tours, but you can go on the website and look at photos and images I have out there. A good deal of them are mine, um, as to what the country looks like that these guys traveled over. So this is more of the same here. Okay. Well, Copiapo is right below us there, and Copiapu, I mean. So, excuse me. Now, they arrived in Copiapu from the south on October 20th, 1536. Now, Almagro wanted to stay about, a little over a week, make sure they're prepared before they take off for the next part of the journey going north back to Peru. Now, he allowed the lieutenants to give several men every day some leave in the town, and so you can Demerida walks around in the town and observes several things, and it's an interesting glimpse and peek back, 500 years ago to this in this town. Okay, so I wanted to mention a couple of things here. One is that they were very lucky to come across a man who had served as a replacement soldier in one of the Inca armies, and so this guy had come down from Cusco, one of several, um, come down from Cusco, come into northern Chile, and come down to Copiapu over what came to be known as the Way of the Inca. In other words, the route they followed from Cusco down to Copiapu, and then moving south, farther south into present-day Chile. So he knew the route. He knew the route north. He had come south. He knew the route north from Copiapu up to the towns of Atacama and Calama, and we'll get to those in a minute. So this guy was uh, the expedition was fortunate to find this guy because he knows the route and he knows the water sources and so on, and that is invaluable. Now, something else I want to remind you of, there's another dynamic going on here, and that is you might recall in the previous part, uh, Pao Yu is talking to Demerida and Father Molina, and he mentions that uh, the Incas had placed, worship sites on mountains, and some at the top of some mountains. And he thought that one of them was on our way back over this particular part of the journey. And so they got really excited because it also turns out that Hanko and Ayar knew it, they had lived in Atacama, and they knew of a guy who had actually participated in building the huts on the top of Yuyayaco. So that produced a great deal of excitement. So that's another little thing going on here, especially Demerida and Anko Huala and Father Molina want to get north so they can talk to this man because they're very interested in how the heck did they pull this off. Okay, we're going to move off now. The first part of the journey, according to UPON, about the first week or so, there's few water sources, and so what he suggested was that they load up their gourds with water before they left. And so Almagro had made sure that that was taken care of. Now, there's something else going on here, and that is there'll be a rise in elevation. Copiapu is elevation of 1,300 feet, but soon they're going to be up at 11,500 feet. Not really high, but I mean that's high enough to where it's cold at night, and and so on. So and also that cuts down on exertion. at least vigorous exertion. So they'll be feeling it. Well, let's go to there's a water source about an hour out of town today by car, by truck. There's the road down there. This is the road that I took out to with my drivers out to climb, the peaks on the Great Plateau, and it's called San Andres. It's just a very small little stream, and it wouldn't have helped much. Remember the number of people and animals that are on this expedition. Okay, there are around 550 Spanish soldiers, some 55 horses, 5,000 Indians, and 4,000 llamas. So that's a lot of people and animals to be providing water for. Uh, there's another source as you follow this road, and I remember this source also. It's not much. They would have had some water from it, but not much. Now, right past here, I think, is where it happened, but there was a storm that came in, and Demerita talks about it. A lot of rain in the afternoon, came down in buckets. Then when night came on, it started to snow. Excuse me. And when they got up the next morning, there's pools of water that they were able to replenish their water supplies. So that was rather fortuitous. Okay. Now the next source, here's where they start getting into regular sources of water. This is the Rio Salado, and I know you can't see the details of it, but there is a nice stream down there. And now from here on, they're going to be hitting sources of water all the way north that are only like 1 or 2 days between them. Now, when I say 1 or 2 days, what is that? Well, you might recall that a llama will only travel 8 or 9 miles a day, and then no kind of admonishment, threats, kick them, beat them, pet them. They won't travel farther than that. They're like mules, and so that's really a day's worth is about 8 or 9 miles. And as you'll see here, they're pretty close together. So that's my guess that it's. And these places I haven't been to, so I can't say how long it would take. But if I just look at it on in Google Earth and look at the distances involved, it'd be a day and a half, 2 days between each one of these. Now here's the first one. This is Salar de Pedernales. And there's water down there. I don't want to go down too low suddenly because sometimes this Google Earth thing will just dive right into the earth. Now here's a source over here if this thing will work. There's a nice sized laguna down there. Now let's go on to the next one. You can see how nicely spaced these are. This is Infielis. There's something else. There's on these lagunas, you're always going to find flamingos. Now, in what we're going to see in a couple of minutes or go past, just thousands of flamingos. But here it's not. These lagunas don't have thousands of them. Now, you might recall that there's 3 kinds of flamingos out here: the Chilean, the St. James, and the Andean. I can't remember the distinctions among them, but they have different wing color, beak color, and leg colorings. You can go online and find out the difference among them. All right, so let's go on to the Aguilar. Now you can come out here, and people do. You just get a 4-wheel drive. Make sure you've got friends in another vehicle, though. Don't come out here on your own by any means. But there's plenty of water out here. You come out with food for several days and have a great time. Okay, let's go down to Aguilar 2. I want you to notice this. Look at these little pock marks filled with water. Now, I've come across things like this in the Andes, several places, down by Pisces. and then south of Tres Cruces. But you stumble across these things, and they're just breathtaking. Now, besides these Google Earth things, I've got images of these lagunas and so on the website. So check them out for this for part U. Going on to the next one is Asufrera. There's water down there. Take my word for it. Now here's Gorbea. I've been close to Gorbea. I haven't actually been out there, but I've been close to it because I'm coming on the area now that I'm familiar with because of the numerous trips out to Yuyayako. And here it is. It's the volcano of Lasteria. Okay. Now, they passed by it on the western side. I've seen it from the north and also the eastern side because I've driven down here a couple of times, my driver and I, just to look at the peak. It's a faintly smoking volcano on its northwestern side. There's smoke coming out of it, steam, I mean. Interesting peak. Now here's Laguna de Asufrera. I've been by this several times. It's enough to take your breath away. I mean, the colors are just. This time it looks like it's green, but this was done a couple of years ago. Okay, but I've seen it one time going by. It was deep blue. Another time it was this greenish color, and I think another time there was parts of it that was were yellow. And of course, this is all caused by different pigments and phosphates in the water itself. Okay, moving on. Here's where we come to Aguas Calientes. Now, if you read the Clawing book, I've been to this place 7 or 8 times over the years on the way to Yuyayako. And so we'd spend the first night here at an abandoned borax mine, and 12,000 feet. And then my driver would take me up to base camp on the peak the next day. So right here in the middle of the photograph, in the middle of the image, is you can't see the buildings, but they're down there. But anyway, what's distinctive here? Look at this darkened earth here. You can see a picture of one of my pictures on the website. I think this is where they had the guanaco hut because this is where Demerita says that they conducted it with rock walls as one side of this enclosure where they were going to kill the animals. And it's right down there. But see it on the web because I don't want to go down. See the image on my photo on the web because it's much more distinctive than this picture here. Yeah, you got to read about that guanaco hunt. Wow, pretty exciting. Now, from here, they could see Yuyayako, and this is where, Yupan told them that this was the peak. This is the peak where the huts are. And so, Ankarwala and Demerita and Father Molina got pretty excited about that because they were this close. And they were really looking forward to interviewing this guy in Atacama. All right, well, they spent a couple of days here after the hunt so that they could butcher the guanaco and start the drying of the meat process. So let's keep going north, though. And here I just wanted to indicate that these are water sites. These are streams flowing off the mountain. And I've got pictures, I think, of 2 of these on the website, my pictures. Now, just as an aside, they did not know, going past here, that 500 years later, out here to the west, there'd be a mine. This is Mina Escondida. And this is the largest open pit copper mine in the world. Look at that. I've got some, I've been here. I visited, oh no, I beg your pardon. No, I have not been here. I've been to the second largest open pit copper mine in Chile, and that's Chuquicamata, which is outside Calama. And we'll go by that when we get up to Calama. So How could they know that here's this be this huge mine 500 years later? Okay, well, let's continue north. And from Aguas Calientes up here to Monterrey, it's about 16 miles. So they would have reached this in 2 days. Today, this is gosh, I don't know what to call it. It's on the rail line between Antofagasta, Chile, and Socompa, Argentina. And I think it runs once a week. But there used to be a little station here, but no longer. But here's the important thing here. Here's what they found. They found huts. And we're going to go to the ruins of these in a minute. They found huts here with clothing, food, and so on. And it was for Yupan said it was for the high priest in Calama, who he and his priests every 2 years or so would visit the mountain and pray at Yuyayaco. Now you can see some of these ruins today. Let's go down to them. Yeah, here's one. You can see it. You go to another one. These are a little fainter to make out, but you can see there's one lower here, one right next to it, and then almost an oval a little higher. Okay, let's go to some more here. This one's rather distinctive. See it? And there's others out here too. So they're here. Well, in another 2 days, they're continuing north now. They came to the little town of Piene. Now, this is just a small village today as it was then. Let's go down to it. There's only like, I think there's only like 800 or 1,000 people here, and they mine lithium. Plus, they also grow fruits and vegetables, not only for the population here, but they do sell some of this to the restaurants and markets in Atacama. Today's San Pedro de Atacama. We'll be there in a minute. That's about an hour to the north. Okay, now we're going to go to another small town. First of all, here's the lake Miscanti. See, it's a rather large one. Now, Socare, I beg your pardon. In Piene, Yupan pointed out, this is the way of the Inca. This is the way they came, okay, and on their way to conquer Chile. There's the ruins of Atambo. It's on the outskirts of town. I don't want to go down there. I could find it, but it's here. The ruins of Atambo. Now, Atambo was a resting place for several men, okay, and it was made by the Incas in stone. And so the conjecture is that the Inca armies coming through, the generals, they'd stop every now and then. This is probably one of the places where they stopped, for the food and so on. And but this is a resting places for the generals. They could sleep in this place, or as a storage place for dried food and so on that they could draw upon. So it's there today, and there I've got a picture of it on the website. Let's go back to Miscanti and Socare. That's a beautiful lake, by the way. Okay, now Socare. Again, lithium, and also agriculture, fruits and vegetables. Now, these are also tourist sites. Each has a nice hotel, and what happens is you can get a tour out of Atacama. And so they have these tours that come down here. You spend, an afternoon and night at the hotel in Socare, and then you can go on to Piene. And again, they're only like, Socare is only like, 45, 50 minutes. Well, you stop along the way, and I'll show you where you stop. So they probably make it a journey of maybe a couple of hours to come down here, and we'll see why in a minute. Okay, well, the expedition stopped here. I'm sorry, they did not go to Socare. They stopped in, he says, Piene, and then bypassed Socare, and now they're on their way to Atacama. Now, something else happened here. De Merida asked Almagro. They're about several days from Atacama. He asked if Hanko and Ayara could take off early with a horse and get to Atacama so they could get with their families. And they could get there quite a bit faster than the expedition could. And Almagro said they could. So they took off. Now, here we're passing, and if you take a tour out of Atacama to go to Sakari and Pieni, they'll stop at, this is part of the Flamingo Reserve, at these lagunas. This is the Chilean Flamingo Reserve, and it's one of several in Chile. And thousands of flamingos on these. This is Laguna Chaja. And De Merida says they passed this place. Here's another one, Laguna Tebenquiche. And over here, there's another town. And this is only like 30 minutes from Atacama. This is Tocanao. Now, I want to show you something. I want to show you something here. Look at that green rectangle down there. Any idea what that is? It's a soccer field. I mean, Chileans, like many South American countries, are crazy over soccer, but right here in the middle of the desert. Now, Tocanao is a little larger than the other towns farther south. It's not as large as Atacama. I think it has like 2,000 people, but agriculture is a big deal. And people who work the restaurants and the tourist sites in Atacama, some live here. But it's agriculture and that kind of stuff, and they sell it in, and they have a hotel here. They sell it up in Atacama. Now, Laguna Cejar, they spent a night here, and then next day went on up to the outskirts of Atacama. Were met by Hanko and Ayar. And let's go up there. They spent a couple of days here. Now, Atacama, just to tell you about it, because I've been here once, I don't know how to characterize it other than it's a place. Oh, by the way, it's the most popular site in northern Chile for tourists, and it has I don't know, a European flavor to it. It's got I don't know. You just have to experience it. It's edgy. It's far out. And it's totally charming. And the hotels are just each one is unique. I mean, it's just I'm fumbling over the words to describe it. But if you're ever in Chile, you've got to get to Atacama. And there's plenty of things to see. There's the Valley of the Moon. There's any kind of the Tadio geysers to the north. There's just loads of stuff. You could spend a week here and be out on the either walking through the town or experiencing. Now I've got some images on the site, or taking some of these tours. So thoroughly enjoyable. All right. Okay. Well, that's it for part U. Now, coming up next is part V, where they talk with Apani the Indian, who helped erect the huts on the top of the mountain Ugayaco. So you can't miss that. Okay, do not miss it. Well, thank you very much for joining me.